Welcome everybody, Brother Dan Goodwin here. This is the God's Final Jubilee program. I'm your host, and we want to just tell you we appreciate everybody out there. And tonight I want to just share a verse, just a passage out of Matthew chapter 24 with you, and I'm going to kind of call the program "Wars and Rumors of Wars." Let me read Matthew 24 for you, beginning in verse 1. Jesus went out and departed from the temple, and his disciples came to him to show him the buildings of the temple. That's not just the Jews that do that. We kind of do that too. I'm an evangelist. I go to a lot of churches. I find that the pastors often want to show me their buildings and things. No, I'm not saying that's wrong. That's fine. They're happy about what God has done and the ministry and the buildings that they've been able to erect, but it's just it's just a little funny, isn't it? The Jews did the same thing. They wanted to show Jesus the buildings. They were proud of them. And verse 2, and Jesus said unto them, see ye not all these things? Talk about throwing a pail of water on them. They're showing him their magnificent buildings. And he's getting ready to douse it with water. And he's getting ready to knock their feet out from under him. Jesus said unto them, see ye not all these things? Verily I say unto you, there shall not be left here one stone upon another that shall not be thrown down. Now, I have been over there in Israel. I've been on the Temple Mount. And I guess one of the reasons that area is not quite as exciting to me as it is to some people is I realize that everything we see up there is not original. What you see when you go to Jerusalem, I'm talking about the Eastern Gate, all that. None of that was there when Jesus walked the earth, because it says right here, and by the way, we believe that in 70 AD is when this happened. They totally annihilated the place. So anyway, every stone shall be thrown down. Now look at verse 3. And as he sat upon the Mount of Olives, the disciples came unto him privately, saying, tell us, when shall these things be? Now the same guys that just showed him the buildings, now they're showing him, now they want to know, what do you mean? When is this going to happen, Lord? What's going on? Is it the end of things? Is it the end of the world? They came to him privately, saying, tell us when, and I underline that word when shall these things be, and then what? I underline what shall be the signs of thy coming? And by the way, they're not talking about the rapture. They're talking about his second coming to set up the kingdom. The Jews have always been looking for a kingdom. They were not looking for baby Jesus or baby Messiah. They were not looking for someone to die on the cross. They were looking for a Messiah to come and set up the kingdom. Because they did not see the church age and they did not see the rapture. And by the way, neither would you had you been alive at that time. Because those were mysteries that were not yet revealed to anybody. Paul was given the mystery of the church, which I believe was always going to be there. I believe there was always going to be a church age, whether the Jews rejected their Messiah or not. The church age, the 2,000-year church age, was set in stone. It was foreordained to happen. I don't have time to prove that, but I can prove that. And it was not an afterthought. God didn't scratch his head and say, okay, the Jews have rejected my plan. I guess I'll come up with another plan. No, this was always the plan. Now, I believe the Jews would have headed up the church age, but they lost their right to do that, and the Gentiles became the church age. Okay, Jew and Gentile ruled together. So, what shall be the end? When? And what's the sign of the end of the world and of your coming? And of course, they're talking about, again, and you see this again after the cross in Acts chapter 1. When he's after 40 days, he's walked the earth. He's getting ready to ascend back to heaven. I think in verse 10, Acts chapter 1, verse 10 is it? Let's see if I can find that real quick. Here we go. Verse 10. And while they looked steadfastly toward heaven as he went up, behold, two men stood by them in white apparel. That's Moses and Elijah, I believe. Which said also, ye men of Galilee, why stand ye gazing up into heaven? This same Jesus shall so come in like manner, have you seen him go? What's he talking about? The second coming, not the rapture. He's talking about the second coming. Remember now, Acts chapter 1, nobody knows about the rapture yet. Nobody. He's talking about the second coming, when he comes on the white horse at the end of all things to set up the kingdom. But look back in verse 6 of Acts chapter 1. When they therefore were come together, this is right before he's getting ready to ascend and leave the planet, they asked of him, saying, Lord, wilt thou at this time restore again the kingdom to Israel? They still don't get it. They're still looking for what? A kingdom. By the way, what are the Jews looking for today? The kingdom. They're not looking for the rapture. They're looking for a Messiah because they don't believe Christ was the Messiah. They're looking for the Messiah to come. Just like you and I are looking for the Messiah to come. We better be. Watch and wait. He's coming at a day you think not. They're also looking for a Messiah. My Messiah is coming for me at what we call the rapture. The trump of God shall sound, the dead in Christ shall rise first, and we which are alive remain shall be caught up. It's a bodily resurrection. That's why the dead in Christ rise first. The rapture is a resurrection of the body. It's the main harvest. The first fruits was Christ. He rose bodily. The main harvest is the bodies of all the saints. And then at the end of the tribulation, the gleanings. That's 3 phases of the harvest. I did a whole program on that on Prosody News. Just go to YouTube and look for Prosody News, and you can see. I talked about the prophecy of the harvest, and I brought out some really interesting things that so many of us have missed because we're not farmers and we don't understand the harvest and what it all means. So you can see that on YouTube on Prosody News. Okay. So what am I saying here? They're looking for a kingdom, and by the way, there is a kingdom coming. So you still with me out there? The Lord is coming back, and he's going to set up a kingdom, but something happens before that, and it's called Daniel's 70th week. The rapture happens, and Israel and the world is going to go through what the Bible calls Daniel's 70th week. Now you and I call it the tribulation. Not the Great Tribulation. The Great Tribulation is the second half of the tribulation, the time of Jacob's trouble. But the tribulation is 7 years long, and actually it's exactly 2,520 days. 7 years of 360-day years. And it's talked about in Daniel chapter 9. It's talked about, of course, in the New Testament. Okay? So back to Matthew 24 again. So they ask him when, what, and what's the sign of your coming? And then you get to verse 4. Jesus answered and said unto them, take heed that no man deceive you. Boy, there's a lot of deception today, isn't there? Can I shock you today? Can I say something shocking? It is not the deception of the lost world that bothers me. Who cares? Who cares what Hillary Clinton says, or some guy on CNN, or even Fox News? Some atheist or some non-believer. That doesn't bother anybody. What's going on today is God's people. I'm talking about nationally known prophecy speakers and prophecy ministries. Many of them, do you know what they're doing? They're discrediting the Bible. You watch the program. By the way, I recently did some programs concerning the KJB, the King James Bible, my newest book, the KJB, the Gold Standard. I did some programs on that, and I shared on there, and some folks put some comments and said, "You're right, Brother Goodwin. I'm hearing national prophecy ministries discrediting or belittling the King James Bible on their programs. Isn't that sad?" What did Jesus say? Let no man deceive you. Now, when somebody gets up and says that the Bible has errors in it, my friend, that's deceiving. That's a lie. That's deception. See, it's not, like I said, it's not the atheists, it's not the sodomite crowd, it's not the Planned Parenthood people. What they say doesn't bother me, and it doesn't bother the churches. But when men of God get on TV, get on the radio, get in their pulpits, and spew things that are deceptive, That's what's destroying us. And that's what the Lord's talking about here. Be not deceived. He said unto them, take heed that ye be, that no man deceive you. Now, friend, you don't have to believe anything I say either. What you better do is believe this book. And Paul said, follow me as I follow Christ. And I'll tell you this, follow me as I follow the Word of God. Now you're not going to agree with everything that Dan Goodwin says. I don't agree with everything Dan Goodwin says. I don't agree with some things that I believed a year ago. Nothing big, but we're all growing. We're all getting more light. We're all learning more. And we look at things a little different later on. So, listen, make sure that what I'm saying and other prophecy preachers are saying, make sure that you can back it up with the Bible. The problem is, we listen to these guys, and they're big name guys, and if you're not sure about it, you give them the benefit of the doubt because well, that's so-and-so, he's smart. I've had them tell me on the phone, I've had people say, oh, well, yeah, that brother so-and-so, and I won't mention any names here, but I'd like to. That brother so-and-so, man, that guy knows the Bible. I had somebody argue with me on, I think it was on YouTube, about the Genesis 6 story, which we're going to be getting into here pretty soon. Not in this program, but we're going to shed some light on the Genesis chapter 6, the sons of God and the daughters of men. We're going to shed some light on that on Prophecy News and on my programs here. So let me say this. I had somebody question, they brought up a guy's name, and I knew who they were talking about. And they said, look, he's written books on this subject. He's smart. He's studied it for hours and hours and hours. That doesn't mean he's right, friend. But you see what I'm saying? We tend to, if somebody's a big name person, we tend to give them some grace, and we tend to believe what they say. We think they're smarter than us. And listen, be careful of that. Jesus said, let no man deceive you. Then he went on to say, for many shall come in my name, saying, I am Christ, and shall deceive many. And ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. Now, that's what I'm going to stop right there. Wars and rumors of wars. What's going on today? What's going on in the last few days? You all heard about the tankers over there in the Gulf, the Strait of Hormuz, or however you say that. Hormuz, you know what I'm talking about, the little strait. They say that half the oil of the world comes through that little canal. And they could literally cripple the world economically with oil. That's why the nations of the world are all over there watching guard. You know, I'm talking about America, Great Britain, and others, because we are going to fight for that little canal there. We're going to fight for their oil because it's our lifeblood. Now, whether you agree with that, whether that's right or wrong, is not the issue. It's a fact that the nations of the world are going to try to guard that place. So you all saw what happened. We don't know the truth yet, and I don't know, sometimes it's hard to know the truth, and we may never know the truth. I still got questions about 9/11 that I'll never get answers to until we get to heaven. And I got questions about the JFK assassination. We're not going to hear the truth about that either. Mr. Trump had a chance to unclassify all that, and somebody twisted his arm and talked him out of it. So we're never going to, after all these years, 50 years, you mean you can't unclassify that 50 years ago? You got to be kidding me. Somebody's protecting some evildoers. But anyway, neither here nor there right now. But all I'm saying is we don't know what happened over there. The U.S. government is claiming that Iran did it. Some in Iran are saying they didn't, and then of course others in Iran are celebrating in the streets saying they did. But all that to say this: wars and rumors of wars. The war drums are beating again. Have been for some time now. It's just a matter of time. In my book, 7 Clocks a Ticking, I have a scary chapter called "The Ticking Nuclear Clock." I think I did a show on Prophecy News about it, but I give the history of war all the way back to the first murder, Cain killing his brother with a stick or a rock, and all the way up into the nuclear age that began with 1944, 1945, with the dropping of the bombs in Japan. And And then, of course, 1950, 1951, the hydrogen bomb, 1,000 times more powerful than the bomb dropped on Japan. Think about that. Now, that was 70 years ago. The hydrogen bomb, that is 1,000 times more powerful than the atom bomb dropped on Japan. That was 70 years ago. What do you suppose man has today? What do you suppose America and Russia have, and Israel? What do you suppose we've got in our arsenal? I've read that we have weapons we haven't even tested because we're afraid of what might happen. There's a nuclear clock ticking, my friend. It's just a matter of time and a matter of when. And you can see the signs about us. But he said there are wars and rumors of wars, but the end is not yet. But it's a sign of their birth pains. Okay, so keep your head up and keep watching and keep looking, keep alert. My friend, we're near the end of this thing. By the way, if you haven't got this book yet, I think it's the most important book I've written. Definitely the most exciting. 7 clocks are ticking. You can get it on the website, godsfoundjubilee.com, or if you're an Amazon person, it's also there. It's also in a Kindle on Amazon. I forget how many. There's 20 or 25 or 7 full color pictures in this book. And this is an awesome book that'll help you. And so, listen, before I shut her down, let me say this. Today, this is June the 16th, 2019. Today, I've posted by the way, thank you to everybody that helped me with my transmission. You guys have been so wonderful. And I raised, you people gave enough money to pay for the entire transmission job in my car. So, I hate to ask this, but I've posted a GoFundMe page on the internet. It's on the Facebook page, and I would ask that you pray about it. Go look at that and read what I said there. Basically, what I said was I've been the host at Prosty News for several months now. I believe it's an open door from the Lord, but it is costing me dearly. What many of you don't know is that I do it for free. They're trying to help me a little bit, and they have a little. But Prosty News is struggling, and I'm trying to help them. I'm trying to pick them back. I'm trying to keep them on the air, and get the viewership back, and get the finances back in order. So I'm basically going out there driving 2,000 miles round trip once a month, sometimes more. To record the Prosty News programs, and I'm not going to stop. I mean, if I have to start robbing the piggy bank, I'll do it. But it's hurting me financially. It's draining us, and I spend a lot of hours on it. I spend hours and hours calling people, setting up programs, reading their books, and watching their DVDs. The guests that we're going to have on. So I'm going to keep the God's Found Jubilee Ministries going. But at the same time, God has opened this huge door of opportunity, and I felt it was of the Lord, and I went through it. And but what I'm asking is, I need some folks to help. So I put up a GoFundMe page. I think I put a goal of $10,000, and that's to get me through the end of the year, through December. And so go take a look at that. There's some videos on it. There's some write-up that I put on there. See if it's something that you'd like to be a part of, be a partner of me and Prosty News to help me keep going and keep going out there. Now, listen, I'm not asking you to take money from your family. I'm not asking you to go without food or not pay your rent. Don't do that. But if you've got some money and God lays it upon your heart and you'd like to help, I'm just letting you know there's an opportunity there for you. And I'm gonna continue either way. But we're just gonna keep on keeping on. So all right. So with that said, I'm going to shut her down here, and now Facebook, you stay here because I'm going to stay on for a few minutes. But I'm going to. You may have noticed I just threw my remote control across the room, so I've got to get up, get over there, and get my remote control so I can shut the camera off. Facebook, you stay right there and listen. Folks, the Lord's coming soon. Be ready. Make sure you're right with God. And by the way, we're heading out to Prosty News again this week. This is June the 19th. We'll be doing. This is the 16th, but I've got interviews. I think the 20th or Yeah, I think June 20th, Thursday, I'll be doing interviews out at Protestant News in Oklahoma City. And I've got opportunities, I've got openings in my schedule. If you'd like to contact me about a meeting or speaking at your conference or your church, please get a hold of me. And okay, so I'm going to shut that off, and you on Facebook, stay right there.